Welcome, thank you for tuning in Neptune Knives. This is a follow-up to the previous vid where I did some testing of the Hinderer XM18, and today we're going to do a little bit of testing because one individual said that in the test I was holding the knife, but and so therefore I didn't whack it just with the knife like this. In my experience, this type of hitting spinal whacking is actually harder on the blade than this, because this you're just holding it like that and doing it lightly. So I can do this time. I did just lube it up, so it is sticking a little bit right here, but I don't think that should affect it. And did sharpen it. We'll go over that in a second. But what this video is going to be now about is just kind of talking a little bit about why Hinderers are so expensive and maybe why they're so sought after, and kind of what makes them so special, perhaps. And I feel like throughout the videos I've seen, I haven't really had that answered to me, and so this is my personal experience on it. And also, the video may be a little jumbled, so but that's why you have the beauty of just pausing and rewinding. So I'm just going to try to get a lot of the information in. So first, how about we do a little test of the spine? Okay, so let's start with you ready? Okay, it's just the Hinderer is just not going to fail. Okay, you can see some of the lube came out of there, and you see the lockup, it's not even affected. Look at that, centering. Oh, I forgot to tighten this. This screw came loose during that testing, so note, but you put Loctite or something. Okay. Next also is the edge. So I got it sharp again. Now, under normal circumstances, then when a Hinderer is sharp, okay, the Rockwell hardness, according to Cartech, the Carpenter Tool Steels, they say the max is 62 HRC. Hinderer is at 61. Regardless, for even such a high Rockwell hardness, being above S30V, like Chris Reeve 59, it's still soft. It's a soft steel, and for those who don't know, softer steels tend to grab softer things better, like skin, while harder steels only catch things that are a little more rough. But for example, if you were to shave with a soft steel, that's why razor blades are so soft. The steel just easily catches fabrics. Like if you try shaving with like a titanium blade, it'll go dull fast, but it catches hair very easily. So Hinderer kind of falls in that category of this is a beat up one. One person had questioned my ability to sharpen or something. Okay, I was out there in the field and stuff. I just didn't want to I didn't want to waste time sun setting. Regardless, so you can see it's really sharp, very easy to, okay, there we go. Sharp. The thing is to remember on this steel, it ranges right between, okay, if you've had S30V, then you could kind of say that when you use S30V and you sharpen it, you can use diamond rods on it. And you can push hard and you won't roll the edge to the other side. Like when you push and you sharpen, you won't suddenly bring a burr over onto this side. Kind of S30 kind of tends to do that. Like it's resistant to that. So you just kind of have to make sure that you're getting it consistent. While softer steels like CPM 154, you don't even really want to use the diamond rod. You kind of want to go ceramic and go lightly over each side. The Hinderer is kind of in between. Diamonds are necessary, but not completely. They definitely help set the edge, but regardless, whether you're using ceramic or diamond, you push too hard, you'll roll the edge. You just kind of have to be like a medium. It's definitely between CPM 154, VG10 steels and S30. S30, it doesn't have the vanadium, so it's not like S30. It's not gonna. You can't just really sharpen. It's just a little bit more touchy. You gotta be a little better at it. But the steel does have its pros in terms of toughness, which you saw. It would tend to roll or not chip, which is, I think, maybe perhaps even a better thing, because S30 is not going to do anything that tool steel can do. So Hinderer, ditching the S30 for a CTS XHP kind of does make sense, because it's not going to chip, and then you're not going to have to remove that chip out of it and lose a lot of blade material. So to the next part, you're looking at Hinderers, looking, wow, they're so expensive. When you want to buy them, whether from dealers that are authorized dealers from Hinderer himself, to buying in the secondary market, such as individuals like me, understand that I like the Hinderer, and I back the Hinderer, but at this moment, I'm not a Hinderer dealer. How much does Rick Hinderer actually sell the XM18 folding series if you were to buy directly from him? As a business owner, I can kind of have insight. This is not my first business, and I can tell you that there are some things that you can kind of learn from running a business. And so Mr. Hinderer, when he sells his XM18s, you can purchase them directly if you are a firefighter, a first responder, an EMT, military, law enforcement, for $375. That's what he charges. Of course, now he's going from Ohio, I think, and so the wage there is different. Everything's salary, the cost of living is different. But regardless, $375 is what he charges. When you compare that now to the competition of Chris Reeves, and being over 430, 400 something, Striders being almost up to 500. I mean, it's kind of like, man, how is it that this knife is so inexpensive if you were to, be someone who, I guess you say, qualifies. So that's the first thing you notice, though. When I first saw the Hinderer XM18, I held it, and I saw it next to other knives. My thought was like, man, look at all these details. I mean, stone washing, that's time consuming. A lot of custom knife makers don't like doing it. You know what I mean? We're talking laser engraving. We're talking machining of the hole for this clip piece. We're talking custom made pivots. We're talking, look at that, the thumb lug. We're talking lining up that area, doing the lockup, We're talking machining all this jimping, even doing that little section there. We're talking adding a bevel all the way around the entire knife on all sides. It's just, and look at all those ergonomics. I mean, look at all that cutout and all that design. Then look at the blade grind. It's not like Spyderco saying, hey, let's just do a simple flat grind and just forget the top half, because that would be too much problem. It's like, man, let's add a swedge here, it's like everything has to be matched up. I mean, this is a lot of work. So, you think, man, why then is this knife so popular and performs so well, yet can it be, less than the competition? And that's the thing you have to realize about Mr. Hinderer. Now, I don't know him personally. I've talked to his guy a little bit. I got introduced to him through their self-defense, knife defense class. And the thing is this, okay? His knives are unique because he knows he has a good product. He himself has experience as a firefighter. So the thing is, if he knows he could make money by just mass producing or just selling it to everyone, why wouldn't he? If you could be rich, more rich, why wouldn't you? Hire some people, put them in a factory, in your garage or your warehouse, in your workshop, and make knives. What I'm going to say now is this, okay? I get the impression that as a business owner that Mr. Hinderer isn't in it just for money. That he knows that his knives have a strong tactical ability, and at the same, so therefore he doesn't want them to fall into the wrong hands. So that's why he charges so little, because he wants to help people who, help, I guess, the community. And at the same time, he's putting, he knows that on the secondary market, an individual who doesn't want it is going to really have to save a lot, really want it, do the research, find it just to get one. And so hopefully those kind of individuals, are not going to either use them hard or they're just collectors. I mean, he has that in mind. What is it makes it so special? And I'll say that Mr. Hinderer at some point must have, in his using of his knife, and through the feedback, he came up with this way, and if you saw in the testing how the lock bar tends to not disengage, but rather go further in. And during that process, he must have then encountered the fact that when grip tart and going in, this lock bar could go too far in, and so that he created this stabilizer, the Hinderer's lock bar stabilizer. So, in terms of heavy use, Strider has now licensed that function, and that is kind of the almost, I would say, standard in what you want from a folding frame lock knife or even a lock style knife when you consider it for tough use. So then that kind of then puts the Hinderer now, when you compare it to what other knives are out there, in a very special category because of that lock bar, the way it locks up, and that stabilizer. So like when I first was researching the Hinderer, I saw videos, for example, by Solos Knife Reviews, and he had done like a cut test where he had punctured a car tire with the XM18, and it didn't do very well because it's got all this surface area and bulk and all this these different grinds going on and stuff, and it's just, of course, it's not going to do as well as something like a paramilitary or just a thin piece of metal going into something. it misrepresented what the Hinderer is for and what it can do. You see, I get a lot of comments. People say like, oh, well, the blade grind is for tactical use. It's for better penetration. And I'm like, to buy a knife for that, okay, I emphasize tactical on my channel. I'm not saying tactical as in, what knife, get the best knife to go kill someone. My purpose of saying tactical is really to say safety. If you are going to use it in a way that perhaps you don't normally use your knife, look for these features, which usually tend to be on tactical knives, and you can choose the best knife suited for you as an individual. But nevertheless, the knife should still be functional. That's the key, most important thing. Still, is that you're going to use this knife. There's no logic to say buy a knife for pure tactical reason, and sacrifice the functional aspects. It'd be more logical to find a knife that's functional, workable, as a good actual usable work knife. Because that's what a knife is for, to do work. And then, if it has the capability of being used for tactical, purposes. So when he did that, tire penetration didn't really explain what the knife could do. And I hope my video helped that a little bit. As in terms of it being able to chop very well, but the soft steel is not going to catch that wood. Now, that wood was dry and very, rough. Of course, if you had taken it to more fresh wood, it just, slices that wood like nothing. But regardless, you can get an idea of what the blade's performance is about and what's meant to do. So when you compare it to the rest of what's out there, if you're talking about the lockup, you really like that the Hinderer doesn't fail. Here's the thing, if you watch my frame lock comparison videos, you'll note that lockups tend to go in two directions. Either they go like the Sebenza, where the lock bar is very flush with the blade tang, and both surfaces are matched very well, and so they tend to slide on a large surface contact area all the time, and so of course that's going to wear very little, and it's very smoothed out, but then you lose that ability. You get that possibility of it disengaging. The other trade-off is you get something like a Strider or those Fox knives, where the lockup is done in a way where I showed where it's a corner touching it, and then that corner tends to make the lock bar move inward rather than outward. But then the trade-off is a small area contacting the blade tang that can wear out very quickly. So as of this moment, the only knife I know of that can do both is the XM18, not fail and not wear. As you can see, and most knives I've tested so far, I'll be honest, liner locks, they don't wear well because it's a thinner contact area. It's just there's not as much touching the blade tang, to receive all that rubbing and the friction and impacts. So liner locks have a limit, but perhaps they wouldn't fail if done right, of course. So when you look at, for example, what's out there in terms of the lock bar stabilizer, the only options are a Strider, or this is something I still have to discover and test, which is the Lion Steel knives that use the roto block. But you see, the roto block stops it from moving this way, but I can tell on my Lion Steel right here that it doesn't stop it from moving this way, that it doesn't make contact with the roto block in terms of going against that way up. So it's perhaps the Italian Lion Steel company didn't realize that that's what the Hinderer lock bar stabilizer was actually for. It's very possible. Custom knife makers may not realize that the cutout being on the outside is beneficial. There's a lot of things people have to learn and experience. So when you look at the price range, what else can you find that's like a Hinderer? Those liner locks, they're going to give out with constant heavy use. Hess, the 2.0 versions, you're looking at lock bar wearing out. You're looking at, does the stabilizer, the roto block they call it, actually work that way? And it's just, you start to really realize that Hinderer is honestly in a class of its own. I would say knife makers and knives out there that I would say are in the category of well-made, refined design, possibly considered tactical, and at the same time hard use. And the ones that I'm aware of are Warren Thomas knives, Three Sisters Forge. I've heard many things from people in the military that the Three Sisters Forge knives just hold up, compared to other knives that just don't make it out in the field. An individual just got the Super Beast, and like I said, other people he's known who had it, Mr. Allen at Three Sisters Forge really focuses on how the lock bar meets. He carbidizes this area, and he has a way of grinding that blade tang also to where it doesn't really go in this way towards the handle as much, because Jim doesn't have a stabilizer disc, but it does tend to just go inward. And I've known that through my testing of it. Perhaps one of the best considerations I was telling an individual, Mr. Gibson, who was asking me, is that you could take maybe a strider and then perhaps request or find someone. I don't want to mention the individual just because I don't know. It's up to that individual to let me know. I'll annotate it or not. That you could carbidize that area. He could do it so that it could provide more, so it wouldn't wear out. And that's a very good alternative. Then the knife is something that's actually very difficult to obtain. For example, in Australia you can't get it because if in Australia the knife can fail this test where an individual holds it like this and then drops it and it comes out, then you can't have it because you can do that with the Hinderer. Then as for that, you could of course tighten it. Hinderer uses virgin Teflon washers, which I've talked to them. They say they've never had a problem. They're very good quality. Teflon washers can go from crap to very good because the Teflon company lost their rights to monopolize it. So now, but both Warren Thomas and Mr. Hinderer use Teflon washers, and they both have never had any problems. But of course, Hinderers are known for that smooth action. Now this one, you can hear that sound, and that is because two ways you could prevent that smooth action is possibly tightening the pivot more than it should be, but of course that might bear down on those washers and wear them out. Second way is to use a lubrication that really sucks. Basically one that's like this factory, this is for Lucas Oil Products. It's meant for actually remote control cars. You can get bicycle chain lube, for example. Those are very thick. They're not lubricous at all, and they just tend to kind of be almost as if there's like sand in there, and so it helps prevent that from happening. But to realize that the Hinderer possesses that kind of tactical ability to where, yes, if you were, whether it be tip up or tip down, you could pull it out of your pocket even with tip down, and just the action of you moving your hand forward could open the knife. The thing is, definitely the knife is a little unwieldy. I feel like I've had the thumb lug actually catch on the pocket and deploy the knife. I've had the knife come open in my pocket. I've had the flipper one then kind of even more exacerbates that problem because of the little flipper sticking out right there, that it could catch on your pocket. If it was tipped down, it could bump, easily open. It's just very easily opened. I mean, the Hinderer is, for example, you were to drop it from this distance. I don't want to drop this one because this is one for sale. It could just pop open. So, but bear in mind, that's kind of the idea of it, for it to be so smooth. I mean, this one's just like, I mean, you've seen videos, you see, with no bearings or anything. It just is so smooth because Mr. Hinderer machines it down, sands it down, gets it precise, gets it nice and smooth. So it just kind of depends on what you're using it for, what your preference is for. If you want it secure in your pocket, without worry of deployment, tighten the pivot down a little bit more, add some stiff lubrication, don't go for a flipper. If you want it, perhaps for speed, for tactical use, for more extra security, when doing thrusting attacks, the flipper one is much better and a little bit more safe or easier to operate, especially with gloves on. You have to understand that it's not accessible to everyone. That as civilians, you can't buy direct from Hinderer, and Mr. Hinderer at this point has shown no signs of wanting to change that. And you can just tell, like, his focus is on perhaps safety and defense. He has seminars on it. He himself doesn't teach it, but he has seminars on this. His wife and him created those tactical self-defense pens, because, and that's something he lets everyone carry, because that's his focus. He doesn't want to provide a knife that he knows is superior in many ways to just anybody, just for the sake of money. So he definitely, to me, is an individual with integrity. But I can understand his concern, and that's his choice because he's the one who created this knife. It's his design. But you have to understand that the value of a Hinderer really shouldn't be understated. There are a lot of knives you can buy, but the honest truth is, whether they fail in hard use, won't hold up to hard use, to whether or not they'll last you a lifetime, to whether they can be used for a variety of tasks, everything combined, it's very difficult to find a knife superior. The truth is, at the production level, it's just hard to find a lock that's as durable in terms of being a frame lock and not fail as the XM18. If you're looking for an actual knife that could continuously do serious use, like outdoor use, above average tasks constantly and hold up to it. And yet, honestly, you'd be looking more towards the custom knife world just because of their overall make. Very few knives out there that excel at that level. So I hope this was informational. I'm going to follow this up. Next part will be me taking it down, explaining a little bit more about some of the I guess we would say the design principles that I've noticed. This video, if you've noticed, came much later than the other videos, just because I really wanted to make sure I got a grasp of what the Hinderer knives are all about. So thank you. Until next time. You can see, no issues. But if you had to, and it's just because of this lubrication, it can really make it a stiff action. Like you can see, like it just. If not, normally Hinderers are watery smooth like this one. And since me and Mel are much more into outdoor use and adventuring, I guess you could say, we prefer the safety of it not deploying by accident. But under normal circumstances, you can see a Hinderer is normally just. See, it's so smooth. It's just like you can just tell, like it just. So it's a neat little trick. So this is for those guys in Australia. If you're watching this, possible. It's tough to say if we can get through customs.